Hello there. Thank you for getting back to my channel. I'm happy that you're here. This is part 3. I hope you'll enjoy it. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell too. If it's not too much to ask, a like and comment would make me happy too. Take care and enjoy watching. It's morning, and all you can hear are the birds chirping and tweeting around. Sonia just woke up, trying to ask someone to close the curtains, because it is too bright, when she heard someone speak up. She immediately sits up, startled. Sonia immediately greeted the Empress regnant. Yewa asked if she was all right, because she noticed how shocked Sonia was to see her there. She mentioned that she didn't mean to wake her up. Yewa told Sonia to go back to sleep, and Hisa was also there teasing her. In Sonia's mind, she wondered, how can I go back to sleep when you are here, Yewa? She even wondered why there were flying hearts around Yewa and Hisa. Suddenly, Gowan appeared before them and greeted Yewa with a slight bow. Sonia remembered that Gowan was sent by Yewa, and she needed to thank her for sending him. She specifically mentioned that Gowan made her life much more enjoyable now that he was around. Yewa was delighted when Sonia thanked her. She brightly smiled, but then she suddenly remembered that she needed to act with dignity. Sion was standing behind her, actually judging her, to be honest. Then she changed again with a more serious look, telling Sonia that Mirini was the one who chose Gowan to be her shadow guard, which shocked her. Sonia was now wondering, realizing that it was not the Empress regnant who sent Gowan for her. She was in confusion, reprimanding herself for forgetting that Yewa and Mirini were inseparable. However, the Empress regnant assured Sonia that Mirini was very trustworthy, and that he wouldn't share her secrets, ensuring that no one would know about Dawn's true identity. This made Sonia even more confused now that she found out Mirini knows about Gowan, and she realized she could no longer use him as her secret weapon. Nevertheless, she told Yewa that it made her happy knowing that Mirini chose Gowan for her. Sonia asked Yewa what brought her to her humble palace. She reached for her clothes and mentioned that she had something to give to Dawn. Handing a paper to Dawn, she let him know that it was from his colleague. Sonia wondered why Yewa was running errands for someone else. She looked for Yewa's servants, whom she couldn't see, and wondered if they were dead out there. Sion wasn't able to stop herself, and finally told Yewa that this kind of thing must be done by a servant. Yewa replied that she didn't have anything to do, and she was feeling bored, with a sullen face, adding that Sonia's palace was the closest to where she was staying. But Sion wasn't convinced. She asked again if Yewa was saying that the Flower Virtue Palace and the Flower Dragon Palace were close, but Yewa simply answered, if I say it is, then it is. Sion didn't buy her reasons, and this was amusing to watch for Sonia. She thought that Sion was reprimanding the Empress regnant with a calm face, and she cheered for her. Gowan's actions sent a ripple of astonishment through the room, catching even Yewa off guard. As the torn letter lay in his hands, crumpled and seemingly insignificant, Sonia's concern was palpable. She reached out to him, a mix of confusion and worry etched on her face. Meanwhile, Sion, observant as ever, relayed Gowan's bizarre intention to Sonia, explaining how he had pondered whether to consume the paper. It was a moment of absurdity, with Gowan poised on the brink of an unconventional act, awaiting approval from his trusted mentor. Yet, just as Gowan teetered on the edge of actually ingesting the paper, Sonia intervened, moving swiftly to prevent such a peculiar course of action. Her sudden arrival by his side startled Gowan, causing him to falter, and betray a charming blush that only added to his endearing demeanor. In that fleeting moment of Sonia's touch, Gowan found himself momentarily stunned, caught between his own whimsical impulses and the reassuring presence of his mentor. It was a testament to the peculiar charm of Gowan's innocence, leaving those around him unable to resist his quirky allure. Truly, Gowan's antics never failed to captivate, leaving a lingering sense of fondness in their wake. Yewa called for Gowan with his shadow name, Dawn. She asked her if she faltered, and Sonia panicked while still holding Gowan's wrist. Her mind was in turmoil. She thought that Yewa was implying that Gowan was taking a step back, and that he was too weak to be her guard. She imagined Yewa as a huge brown bear. Thinking fast, she forced herself to come up with a way to divert Yewa's attention to something else. She made up her mind. She would throw a tantrum. It's embarrassing, but that is the fastest way to divert Yewa's attention from Gowan. Please enjoy the adjusting of the screen. She didn't need to force herself to cry. Just thinking about what she was about to do, she started tearing up. Trembling and shaking, she imagined the people she would like to see get lost. Her list went by: the Empress regnant, the big puppy Garam, and lastly, the snake, Mirini. She just wanted them to get lost and never show their faces in front of her. She started bawling, lying down on the floor. Everyone was shocked to see her crying non-stop. Even Yewa was in panic. She asked Sonia if she did not want Gowan to be her guard and if she wanted another shadow. Sion cleared the air, letting Yewa know that what she was thinking was not what Sonia wanted. Yewa said, "Oh really?" Funnily, Hisa showed her a puppet, trying to stop her from crying. It clearly did not work and made Sonia cry more. She was crying while yelling that she would like everyone to leave her room. With panic, Yewa told her that she wouldn't take Gowan away from her. Gowan looked helpless, nervous, and anxious, like a tiny mouse, while Sonia looked at him from the corner of her eyes, trying to communicate with him. She told him that he just needed to hang on a little longer. To make things worse, Mirini suddenly burst in, letting himself inside. Her eyes almost popped out of her head. She was shocked why Mirini was here now. Yewa asked him what he was doing there, and he answered that he heard a child crying. He looked at Sonia, reached to his hair, and pulled out his hair accessory. It was a gold dragon hairpin, sparkling and glimmering before Sonia's eyes. It made Sonia's eyes light up with excitement. What Mirini was giving her was a priceless heirloom that only Imperial family members could use. The value of the hairpin could buy an entire building in Hanamdong, Seoul, with that. After all that crying, she was exhausted lying on the floor, causing panic for everyone in the room. Finally, night came, and Sonia found herself with cute, fluffy, swollen eyes from too much crying. She wondered how long she had been sleeping. She recalled that Hisa had closed her door, leaving the crazy people outside, telling them that she needed to rest and sleep. As the stone tapped lightly against her window, Sonia's curiosity was piqued, drawing her attention to the figure outside. Peering through the glass, she discovered Gowan, his gaze fixed earnestly upon her. With a gentle smile, she motioned for him to join her inside, a silent invitation to share in her company. In response to her gesture, Gowan eagerly ascended, making his way up to her window. With a sense of anticipation tinged with excitement, Sonia awaited his arrival, ready to welcome him into her space. For Gowan, this impromptu visit held the promise of shared moments and heartfelt conversations, a chance to deepen the bond between them. Gowan is worried about Sonia, who has been sleeping for a couple of hours. She assures Gowan that she is feeling well, and that she is just tired from all the crying and bawling she did that afternoon. Then he asks why she cried, and she simply answers that she has her own reasons. But in all honesty, she cried to prevent the Empress regnant from killing him. Sonia fixed Gowan's hair, pinning it up again. I don't know why Gowan is acting awkward here, but he is really cute. He thanked Sonia for fixing his hair. By the way, the gold pins were from the hair ornament that Yewa gave Sonia. Sonia looked at him adoringly, pleased with her work. But then she remembered to ask why he ripped the letter he received. She thinks he is being rash when he does it, since the letter is from his colleagues. Gowan said that he did not like what is written in the letter. Sonia noticed that when Gowan is shy, his nose and eyes turn red, showing how flustered he is. She curiously asked what was written in the letter. He asked if Sonia really wanted to know what it said, to which she replied yes. Then he answered that the letter said he should serve her well, which Sonia thought was a normal start to the letter. But Gowan added that if he didn't act properly, they would hang him upside down and beat him to a pulp, which is why he needed to be vigilant always. Additionally, the letter also said they hoped he wasn't going around eating trash, and that the fancy feasts they served in the Flower Virtue Palace wouldn't match his taste. Sonia stopped Gowan, realizing that the letter was full of malice. She realized that was how he was treated before. Then she realized that only the best of the best were selected to become a shadow, and the chances were next to impossible. The adult shadows did not like the idea of having a 12-year-old boy joining them, which led to jealousy. She then thinks that even though that is the case, they should not bully a small child. This is coming from a small child too, really, Sonia? She praised Gowan, telling him that he did great and he can rip letters like that again, but not in front of the Empress regnant. Gowan is shown like a cute puppy, tilting his head, and he probably did not understand what Sonia said. She explained that since Yewa was the one who brought the letter, he should not rip the letter while she's looking. He answered that the letter was from his colleagues, but Sonia reminded him that the one who brought the letter was Yewa. She simply said, "Rip it when Yewa is not looking," and I think Gowan still did not get it. Sonia thinks that since Gowan is still too young to understand business manners and how to act around his superiors, she sighed. After hearing her sigh, Gowan knelt down with an apology, which shocked Sonia, because she didn't have any idea why the other was apologizing to her. Gowan told her that he had angered her due to his ignorance of the matter. She wondered when she was enraged. She couldn't even remember when. Then she realizes all the faces she made in the following days, the cold face and the nonchalant one. She had been misunderstood so many times because of her expressions. She cleared everything and told him that she was not angry at all. She even offered her pinky finger as a sign of promise between them. But then Gowan grabbed a small knife and began to act as if he were going to cut off his own pinky finger. Sonia panicked and stopped him. He told Sonia that one makes an oath by cutting their little finger, and that's what he thought when Sonia offered her own pinky. Exhausted, Sonia told him that he was wrong and that's not what it meant. For younger audiences, the images were replaced with ketchup and sausage. Sonia was getting frustrated, wondering who would have taught a young 12-year-old boy something like that. She reached for Gowan's finger and linked it with hers. She explained what it meant, that it signified making a promise, and that this was now the way they would make promises with each other from then on. Gowan's bashful request hung in the air, carrying with it a hint of vulnerability, that Sonia couldn't help but find endearing. His desire to spend time with her every day spoke volumes about the depth of their connection, stirring a warmth in her heart. With an affectionate smile, Sonia reassured Gowan, her eyes alight with genuine happiness. "Of course, Gowan," she replied, her voice filled with sincerity. "You're always welcome in my palace. We can play together, explore, or just enjoy each other's company." In the next scene, it's shown that Yewa is receiving reports from other consorts. They were about to continue when she asked Sonia how she felt attending the meeting for the first time, which almost made Sonia spit her drink from shock. She answered that it was very interesting, with splatters around her little lips, and then she remembered that this was the first time she felt angry with Sion. Earlier, Sion informed her that she needed to attend the meeting, and she even asked why she needed to do that since there was nothing for her to do there. But Sion firmly told her that these meetings were a right and responsibility that all consorts had. The Empress Regnant met with her consorts so that Yewa could make use of them. Of course, who would dare to turn her down when they are all in love with her? Sonia dearly wishes to skip the meeting, because she doesn't love the Empress Regnant, nor does she want to exercise her right, but she doesn't have any excuse. She thought that the meeting was not soon, but she was wrong. With the help of her ladies-in-waiting, she was forced to be dolled up. And now she is bored to death, sitting in her heavy clothes. She was planning to enter the meeting as quietly as possible, but it seemed impossible, because everyone kept shrieking and staring at her lovingly, adoring her cuteness. Seeing those hearts, yes, they loved her, but Sonia was not buying it. Just look at her face. To add to her dismay, Mirini sat her down right beside the Empress Regnant. She recalled that in the original novel, Mirini hated Sonia for sitting in that seat, but now he was the one who insisted she sit there. People are saying how adorable she is, but all Sonia can think about is that when you are sitting this close to the Empress Regnant, it means that you are more favored than the other consorts. She is worrying that what if another person tries to kill her again that day. The meeting continued, but Sonia didn't care, because she didn't have any idea, and all she wanted was for the meeting to be over already. What she focused on was eating the delicious food that was served to them. As she finished the food, the meeting also ended. She was planning to escape the meeting quickly on foot, but then someone asked who Yewa would call to her room that night. Sonia was curious and shocked. She was shocked that someone would ask that when there's an 8-year-old child in the room, which is her. She returned to her seat and waited for Yewa's answer, even though she wasn't even interested in it, wishing that Yewa would choose already so she could go back to her palace. As the moment of decision drew near, a palpable tension hung in the air, each member of the group waiting with bated breath for Yewa's verdict. Even Mirini, usually aloof and detached, seemed to be holding her breath, her curiosity piqued by the unfolding drama. Then, in a sudden turn of events, Yewa's gaze shifted towards Sonia, her expression softening into a gentle smile. With a request that took Sonia by surprise, she invited her to stay the night, her eyes sparkling with an unspoken invitation. Caught off guard by Yewa's unexpected invitation, Sonia felt a flutter of emotions stirring within her. When Yewa made her remark, murmurs and whispers rippled through the room, signaling the unexpectedness of her response. Sonia felt a wave of self-consciousness wash over her, prompting her to nervously scan the faces around her. Eventually, she mustered the courage to bow before Yewa, admitting her lack of readiness to serve her at night, leaving Yewa visibly startled and flustered. Yewa even offered to read a colorful and beautifully illustrated book from the West to Sonia, but she declined the offer. Sonia couldn't believe she was hearing such words from the Empress regnant. Mirini intervened, suggesting that Sonia might be feeling uncomfortable since she's relatively new to the palace. He proposed accompanying her to Yewa's chambers so they could sleep together, his eagerness hinting at his desire for familial bonds. However, Sonia, feeling uncomfortable with the proposition, regarded Mirini as somewhat of a psycho, suspecting his intentions to involve her in their nightly rituals. Yewa inquired if Mirini and Sonia were acquainted, to which Mirini enthusiastically affirmed, mentioning a recent pleasant conversation they shared in his pavilion. Upon hearing this, Yewa couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness that she hadn't been included in their discussion. She glanced at Sonia, silently seeking confirmation of Mirini's claim. Sonia, understanding the implication, responded with a somewhat veiled answer, yes, it was quite enjoyable, while flashing a smile, but unimpressed eyes. With a sense of contentment, Yewa decided to invite both Sonia and Mirini to her chambers that night. She concluded the meeting with a sense of anticipation for what lay ahead, her delight evident in her demeanor as she looked forward to the evening's events. As they made their way back to the palace, someone came to Sonia's aid. Hisa appeared, a net in hand, attempting to capture Sonia's soul. Clearly drained and unhappy with the situation, Sonia found herself in a state of distress. She turned to Gowan, explaining that she would be spending the night in Yewa's palace, and that he wouldn't be able to come to her palace later that night. Gowan looked at her with his puppy dog eyes, and Sonia felt as though she could almost hear his thoughts. Feeling guilty, she apologized to him once again, recalling that not long ago, she had promised him he could visit her palace anytime to play with her. Now, she was sending him home, despite her earlier assurances. As Yewa extended her invitation, she took care to reassure Gowan that it was only for the one night, a temporary arrangement that wouldn't disrupt their usual routine. With a playful glint in her eye, she promised Gowan that if he behaved, she would grant him a wish later, a tempting offer that sparked a flicker of excitement in his eyes. With a mixture of reluctance and understanding, Gowan bid Sonia farewell, his demeanor a blend of acceptance and resignation. And as Sonia made her way towards Yewa's palace, she couldn't help but notice the lack of enthusiasm in Gowan's reaction, a subtle indication that perhaps he wasn't as thrilled about her temporary absence as she had expected. Meanwhile, Yewa and Mirini were engrossed in selecting a book to read for Sonia. They discussed how children often enjoy destroying things, but Mirini argued that children also have an appreciation for beauty, suggesting that Sonia would appreciate the tactile sensation of the coarse, grainy pages. Unbeknownst to them, Sonia overheard their conversation from outside the door. She hesitated, contemplating whether to enter the room or not, hoping to avoid any peculiar sights inside. Eventually, she instructed the servant beside her to announce her arrival. As the door swung open, Sonia found Yewa and Mirini inside, clearly flustered. Mirini couldn't help but comment on how adorable Sonia looked in her nightgown, a sentiment echoed by Yewa. Grateful for the compliment, Sonia was interrupted by a sudden noise as something fell and ripped. To her surprise, a nutcracker tumbled from Yewa's back, dislodged from the book she had been hiding. Seeing the nutcracker, Sonia was shocked, realizing that Hoffman's creations existed in their timeline. Yewa displayed the ruined book from the West she had planned to read for Sonia, further adding to Sonia's astonishment. Her mind raced, wondering what kind of book could be adorned with such elaborate decorations. Mirini attempted to comfort Yewa, suggesting alternative books for Sonia's enjoyment, but Yewa dismissed the idea, stating that children like to break things, and that was the only story where things fell apart. Upon hearing this, Sonia concluded that Yewa had completely lost touch with reality. Mirini countered, claiming that Sonia had never broken anything, but Yewa persisted, citing examples from the books she had read where children exhibited destructive behavior. Sonia realized that Yewa's perspective was shaped by her preference for martial arts novels, reflecting how she viewed Sonia as well. Yewa also recalled a recent incident where Sonia had cried and thrown tantrums, prompting her desire to teach Sonia how to properly express her emotions. Good luck with that, Yewa. Sonia reached out for the nutcracker, reassuring Yewa that while the cover may have ripped, the inside was likely intact, expressing her eagerness to hear the story written in the book. Yewa hesitated, asking if it was okay to proceed despite the damage. Sonia reassured Yewa that it was indeed okay, and that she was very excited to hear the story regardless. Yewa was thrilled by Sonia's response, her excitement evident. Beside them, the chibi version of Mirini appeared, looking happy and pleased as he watched the interaction between the two. "Let go of the prince," said Emma. And then she threw her cotton. Something at the Mouse King. Yewa said. As Sonia observed Yewa struggling to read aloud, she realized that Yewa had likely never read or told a story to anyone before. In this world, there seemed to be no emphasis on the art of storytelling, as Yewa's reading skills were clearly lacking. Sonia's lack of impression was palpable, particularly as she noticed Mirini watching Yewa with what seemed like affection, which struck her as rather creepy. Feeling uncomfortable, Sonia simply wanted to leave the room. Her mind wandered, pondering whether Yewa's personality was always like this. While she acknowledged Yewa's kindness, generosity, and firm leadership, Sonia knew her to be a ruler who never played favorites and treated everyone with equal kindness. With these thoughts swirling in her mind, Sonia couldn't help but wonder why Yewa was trying so hard to read a book to a child like her. Feeling frustrated with Yewa's unsuccessful attempt at reading, Sonia decided to let it go and divert her thoughts elsewhere, as exhaustion began to set in. She thought of Gowan and wondered what he might be doing at that moment. Suddenly, as she glanced up at the ceiling, she noticed a figure silhouetted against the open ceiling. Despite the oddity of the open ceiling, she couldn't help but notice the golden clips shining, leading her to realize who it was. Yewa's voice interrupted her thoughts, asking if Sonia was already asleep. Caught off guard, Sonia quickly closed her eyes, pretending to be asleep. Mirini answered on her behalf, confirming that she might indeed be too tired and remarking on how adorable she looked when sleeping. Yewa agreed, smiling, and they collectively decided to end the night, exchanging goodnight wishes. Despite pretending to be asleep, Sonia's mind raced with thoughts about Yewa's behavior. She couldn't shake the feeling of wariness towards Yewa, especially when she spoke as if she genuinely found Sonia adorable. Deep down, Sonia knew that Yewa was incapable of truly loving another person. As she lay there, pretending to sleep, Sonia pondered the motives behind Yewa's actions. She couldn't afford to let her guard down, especially in the presence of someone as enigmatic and potentially dangerous as Yewa. With each passing moment, Sonia remained vigilant, determined to unravel the mysteries surrounding Yewa's intentions. Sonia is sternly looking at Gowan now, with her tiny fist on her waist. She asks if he was in the Flower Dragon Palace the other night. She is staring at him, but she can't see his eyes now because her bangs are in the way. She thinks that Gowan intentionally removed the hairpins. She asked him where the pins she gave him were. Gowan is not looking at her, a very stubborn and guilty boy. Then Sonia looked for her scissors and told him that she would cut his hair. She raised the scissors, telling Gowan that she would cut his hair to see his eyes, and asked Sion to properly trim it the next day. Gowan immediately said that Sonia can't, and she asked why. Gowan answered that his colleagues say that his face is only tolerable when his eyes are covered. Sonia wondered how adults could say such nonsense to a young boy who still needs to be showered with love. She swore that when she sees those bastards who call themselves Gowan's colleagues, she will definitely make them feel her rage. She approached Gowan, holding him, and told him, "You're actually very handsome," but he disagreed. Sonia added that it was true, his eyes, nose, and lips were all striking, which is why he didn't need to cover his face at all. She told him that he didn't need to listen to what other people said. Changing the topic with a bright smile, she asked again what Gowan was doing in the Flower Dragon Palace that night, but Gowan still told her that he did not go there. For Sonia, it was too obvious that he was lying, and she wondered why he kept denying it. Then she remembered what she had told him before she left for the palace. She realized that he was lying because he had a wish he wanted to make. She sighed. She was thinking that if Gowan had such a desperate wish in the first place, she would have granted it without that promise, and she also thought that maybe she was not reassuring enough for him. In the end, she forgave Gowan and let him know that there was no next time anymore. Gowan happily nodded his head, with his tail wagging behind him. Sonia was happy seeing him act so happily. It was getting late, but she remembered that she needed to return the golden dragon hairpin that Mirini had given her. She knew that it was something not anyone could have. Only those who were granted the Imperial surname, Arian, could possess it. Not all consorts are granted that surname, just because they are married to the Empress regnant. Only special ones like Mirini are bestowed that honor. Even though she abandoned the Uran name, she hasn't received the Arian name yet, so it is only right for her to return the hairpin. Just thinking that she needs to visit Mirini's palace again makes her upset, and she won't ever get a peaceful sleep that night. The next morning comes, and together with Sion and Hisa, who holds the hairpin placed in a wooden box, Sonia is eagerly walking. People they pass by are looking at her. They are watching her, because she is bringing all of these ladies in waiting, even though she is only a low-ranking consort, and she knows it herself how weird it is. Mirini told her to bring them even though she tried to refuse. She imagines that this is Mirini's way to humiliate her. She told her ladies-in-waiting that she could manage on her own, asking Hisa to give her the box. Her presence was announced, and she went inside. Shocked that Mirini did not even wear his blindfold now, showing her red eyes to Sonia. Too comfortable, I see. Sonia panicked and was trying to make a run for it when Mirini told her to sit. Of course, she can't refuse, she said. Yes, but first she greeted Mirini, but she was told that she doesn't need to be formal with him anymore. Then he asked her what the visit was for. Sonia apologized to him for the disrespectful conduct she showed previously, or what we call the tantrum. She also mentioned that she would like to return the hairpin. Before she even finished her sentence, Mirini offered her some snacks, to which she asked, "Pardon?" Mirini called for his servant, Yeryung, since she wanted to bring in tea and snacks. She was told that the cook was waiting for her to return, and that they wanted her to visit again. They asked Sonia if she liked sweets or pastries. Pressured, she answered that she enjoyed honeyed fruits. She repeated again about returning the hair ornament, but she was interrupted by Mirini, who followed up by asking what kind of honeyed fruits she liked. He added that she could ask for any fruits, but not pears, since if she ate pears, her body would say no. "I don't want it." Sonia's face showed disgust. She thought that Mirini had finally lost his mind. She even questioned if he was really the manipulative male lead she had read about. Had he been replaced by an idiot? Where had the sly snake gone? Mirini then apologized for what happened that day as they served her some honeyed pears. Sonia felt sorry for him and felt the need to comfort this handsome man, because he was still thinking about what happened to her when she first visited him. With a smile, she told him that it was her fault for not looking after herself and apologized for making him worry about her. And again, she tried to return the box with the hairpin, but was interrupted by Mirini, who was happy to see the tea and snacks arrive for them to enjoy. Sonia then realized that Mirini was intentionally ignoring her. The table was already set, and the two of them then sat down when Mirini dropped a book. Sonia was shocked when she saw it. It seemed like Mirini wanted to read a book to Sonia too, seeing him all red and shy. Sonia was sure that Mirini planned to drop the book to show her that he wanted to read for her. He mentioned that the book is from Yewa, and it is from the West too, given to him by Yewa. She thought that Mirini was trying to show off the book, and said that it was very pretty. Excitedly, Mirini held her hands and told her that he recently found out that sharing knowledge and happiness doubles people's enjoyment. But sadly, he hadn't had anyone to share with yet. So, he asked her if she wanted to read the book together with him. Sonia wondered if Mirini was seriously asking her that. She said that she was afraid she didn't deserve such gracious treatment from him, but still thanked him. Mirini was taken aback by this. She then repeated that she only wanted to return the hair ornament and apologize to him. Mirini felt sad and told Sonia that it was something he gave her, so he couldn't take it back anymore. She repeated that she wasn't worthy of such gifts, and that she wouldn't be able to do anything with it. Mirini's answer was quite surprising. He said that he could use the golden hairpin he gave Sonia to hit marbles, or use it as a drumstick, or craft it into something else. He talked about all that wealth. Mirini also mentioned that the jewel in the hairpin is a piece of the ancient dragon's soul orb, which is why it will make a very pretty hair accessory. Knowing all these details, Sonia was shocked. From what she recalled, he was referring to the ancient dragon, who blessed the Imperial family, and the soul orb that broke into 1,000 pieces. It was an Imperial treasure that was unobtainable by normal means. She is in panic. She thinks that she has fallen into Mirini's trap, and the gift might get her killed for treason if she thoughtlessly accepts it. With the details she just learned, she suddenly felt scared for her life. She kneels down, begging Mirini to take back the gift. Mirini sighs defeatedly and takes it back. He asks Sonia to do one thing for him first, and Sonia wonders what it could be. She just says yes to whatever it is, still feeling scared. Happily, Mirini told her that he would like to read a story for her, and that he would be happy if Sonia could accept that instead. Looking at Mirini's beautiful face with a smile, Sonia said that it would be an honor. Mirini helped her stand and told her that she was being a good girl, and it would be much more comfortable if they sat in the chair. He placed her in a rocking chair, and she watched him, wondering if he was the same Mirini she read about in the novel. In the novel, there was no way that he'd pay attention to another consort when he wanted the attention of the Empress regnant. He even took over the prince consort's place while he was away. On the other hand, the Mirini in front of her kept paying attention to her, tried to help her feel less lonely in an unfamiliar place, and now wanted to read her a book. If this is the case, then Sonia thinks that Mirini is more fond of her than she thought. She doesn't have any idea what is happening, but she thinks it is great. It starts with Garam and now Mirini likes her. She suddenly feels so relieved and excited at the same time that her heart is beating like crazy. Mirini asked her what she thought of the rocking chair, where she was seated, mentioning that she also had one in her palace. She answered that it was beautiful and elegant, just like Mirini. But then she realized that she didn't need to mince her words now. Mirini wasn't a danger to her anymore. She repeated her answer and told him that it was very pretty, with a genuine smile, which pleased Mirini so much. Then they started the book reading session. Shockingly, the story was Cinderella, and Mirini was a better storyteller than Yewa. It suited him with a soft and tender voice, and she could feel that he cared very much for her. Sonia is still pondering what she could have possibly done to make Mirini feel that way for her. After Yewa, now even Mirini is showering her with affection. Just a moment ago, she was just a quiet, emotionless kid who didn't actually act like a child. A side character, who was abused at home, and should have been neglected after she came to the palace. She is thinking that they only like to keep her, because she's a cute little girl who's as quiet as a pretty little doll, and they want to keep her around as an ornament. No matter what the reasons are, Sonia thinks it is not so bad, and it is better that she doesn't need to walk on eggshells around Mirini anymore. A lot of thoughts keep coming to her mind, like what if the other consorts try to get her killed again? If they were able to stop Banryu, will they keep the other consorts away from her too? Mirini continues to read the story to her. Sonia closed her eyes, keeping in mind the details, but then she suddenly feels sleepy. With Mirini's soft, gentle voice, Sonia finally drifts away to sleep. Mirini smiles upon seeing her sleeping. He thinks that Sonia can smile genuinely, but she is always so self-conscious around him. Mirini is staring at her, and she realizes that she's still young enough to seek love from everyone, yet she shies away from it, and it is such a pity. That could be the reason why Sonia sleepwalks around the corridor with a blank expression every night. Good thing Gowan is always behind her, making sure she is safe. Such actions remind Mirini of another child, making him pay more attention to Sonia. Observing Sonia's discomfort as she sits, he delicately lifts her into his arms and carries her to his bed, where he carefully lays her down. Nestling beside her, he offers soft words, wishing her a restful sleep filled with the most delightful dreams. With a tender touch, he adjusts the covers around her, ensuring she is comfortable before quietly slipping away, leaving her to drift into a peaceful slumber. From her nap, Sonia suddenly woke up facing the beautiful Mirini. She was shocked and questioned herself how that could happen, and what she was doing there in bed with him. She immediately sat up and looked around, realizing she was still in Mirini's palace. Slowly, she crawled down from the bed and remembered that she needed to make the bed first. After she was satisfied with the bed, she immediately dashed out of the room. Opening the sliding door, she tripped by stepping on her dress and fell down in front of Sion, which shocked the other. Sion asked if Sonia was all right, but Sonia told her to keep it down. Sion worriedly told her that her nose was bleeding, and indeed it was. In Sonia's mind, she swore that she would no longer go back to that place. With summer approaching, Sonia is just lazing out in her bed, sweat dripping down. It's so hot that she can no longer take it. She looked at Hisa and asked her if she could hurry, because she needed that, referring to mana stones from the west that blow cold air, probably an air conditioner in their time. Hisa teased Sonia, saying that she looked like a fried bread being flipped over. The mana stones from the west create cool wind, so they must have luxuries for the high class of Seora. The eastern continent has powers given by dragons, and the west has magic. A family that was blessed with a power can only use that one. For example, flames of the Yuwa clan and psychokinesis of the Yuran clan. As of now, it is impossible to store that power in an object, but as long as a person has mana, they can use it in many ways, and it's possible to store that energy in something. The mana stone was then called EIC, and Hisa is curious about what it means, but Sonia just answered that she doesn't need to know. Sonia realized something. This world is so different yet familiar, but magic seems more useful than powers. Even the magic blanket she received last time was quite amazing too. It's very thick yet light, and it can even cool down or warm up. While thinking all of this, Sonia is munching down her favorite cookies. She started counting using her tiny fingers for the months. Since Sion is using the lunar calendar, it should be past June, is what she concluded. She still recalls that it was cold when she was married. Another thing that she noticed is that she has gotten taller and even gained some weight. With all the food and living well, it is only natural. Her life is more comfortable now than before. In the previous, she would make sure that she remained quiet, because she was afraid of those people who were trying to get to her. Everything has changed now. No one tries to bother her anymore. The Empress regnant visits her every few days to stare and smile at her, which still confuses her as to why she is doing that. The competition between Garam and Mirini has just intensified. Garam tried to impress her with a firebird at the Flower Decorum Palace recently. He was staring at Sonia like a puppy waiting for her to praise him. What else can she do but nonchalantly praise him with empty words? Since Yewa and the consorts are trying so hard to please her, she started living more comfortably and quite well. She finally understands that she is simply a cute kid that they can fawn over from time to time. This is also the main reason why the assassination attempts on her life decreased drastically. However, she still decided not to let her guard down. She called for Gowan, who was standing beside her bed, hiding. He immediately poked his head out and looked at Sonia. She found it so cute when he did that. She asked if he would like to have some sweets, and he eagerly nodded, his tail wagging like the puppy he is. Gowan sits beside her and starts eating, but then she remembers that no one has been visiting her these days, and even Sion is busy. She thinks it's because of the upcoming festival. Hisa confirms it with her. Seora's founding day, Arian, starts with the current ruler performing ceremonial rites for the dragon, and then the festivities continue all day and night for a whole month. It's a national holiday where taxes are decreased, prisoners with light crimes are released, and even delegations visit from other countries. The festival is named after Arian, the first emperor, whose name is also used as the surname of the Imperial family, so there's no way they could neglect the preparations. Everyone is excited and very busy in preparation. She looked at Gowan, who was busy eating, and asked him if it tasted good. He enthusiastically nodded with a mouthful of cookies. She doesn't care about the festival. All she wants is to laze around and eat snacks with Gowan all day. Gowan is still young, which is why Sonia is worried about his teeth, especially since it seems like there is no dentist in this world. While Gowan is enjoying the snacks, he asked Hisa to clear the table, and Gowan was left with only half a cookie. Poor baby Gowan. Hisa then asked Sonia if she was feeling sleepy, and she said just a little bit. She's been feeling sleepy more often now, and she even sleeps for over 12 hours, but she thinks it is getting worse. Hisa voluntarily wants to sing a lullaby for Sonia, which she strongly refuses. Poor Hisa, she looked so rejected here. Sonia is wondering why all of her ladies-in-waiting keep on wanting to sing her a lullaby. She's not a baby, and she doubts that she will be able to sleep if she listens to one. She couldn't help but notice Gowan scribbling something beside her, his hand lifting a piece of paper to catch her attention. With a curious glance, she watched as he conveyed that if she felt weary, they could retreat to the sanctuary of the secret garden. A puzzled thought crossed her mind. Had she shared the secret of the garden with Gowan before? She searched her memory, but found no recollection of such a conversation. Gowan's pen danced once more across the paper, revealing her own words back to her, words she couldn't recall uttering. A jolt of surprise surged through her, prompting her to question when she had made such a promise. Gowan, equally astonished, stole a glance toward Hisa, standing behind him. He gently reminded her that it was the previous night, when she had disclosed the garden's secrecy to him. The revelation left her momentarily speechless.